Huge Dungeons and Dragons scandals that will end the game forever. You know what's way more helpful than performative outrage? Supporting indie game publishers and software designers. And that's why I'm so happy to help promote the new Kickstarter by Brave Alice Games. This isn't a paid review, but I do have an affiliate link to the Kickstarter in this video's description and pinned in the comments, but that's only so we can track how many supporters my video helped generate. I'm doing this entirely to support them because they're good people who care about the entire creative role-playing community. And I believe if everyone on YouTube currently complaining about WotC were to contribute just $2 to this Kickstarter, we could all show our support for independent publishers and push their Kickstarter well beyond what they're asking for. And I hope you'll watch all the way through so you can learn why. You know, even if you're not personally going to ever use a VTT, and even if RPG stories looks too video gamey for your taste, this is the perfect opportunity for us to vote with our wallets and help this alternative to WotC's upcoming VTT. In this video, I'm going to explain why this is important and give a full review of the RPG Stories virtual tabletop. But first, let me ask you, have you ever had a dream? Have you ever had such a passion for something so great you were willing to risk everything for it? After intense research into this software, I discovered this small, close-knit group of indie creators. They're called Brave Alice Games. They did just that. Last month, they contacted me to ask if I would simply review RPG stories in anticipation for the new Kickstarter. The Kickstarter is already underway, but I'm one of those people who takes a lot of pride and care into my research, and now I'm ready to share my findings with all of you. And near the end of this video, before my final conclusions, I'm going to give you one of the most compelling and strongest persuasive reasons to back their Kickstarter, even if you would never personally use a VTT. Brave Alice Games were previous video game producers, and it shows. That might not be appealing to everyone, and it certainly wasn't to me. I'm an old school tabletop miniatures, battle mat, theater of the mind style gamer, but after walking back my initial prejudices, I started thinking about how long I've been deeply interested in virtual reality. So long, in fact, that as a professional musician back in the early 90s, we used to describe to our studio engineer how we wanted our music mixed in terms of visual landscapes rather than decibels, EQ, and effects processing. And the prospect of being able to transport myself into these fantasy worlds started triggering my imagination, which is why, in a moment, I'm going to take you to the legendary Village of Omelette. You see, for copyright reasons, it's the Village of Omelette. They have good eggs there. And it's something you won't see in any other videos discussing this software. I don't want to spend any of our valuable time criticizing WotC, so I'll just say this. I'm sure their VTT will be great if you only want to play 5e D&D. But do any of us really think they're going to be flexible and support a wide variety of games from different publishers? I wouldn't hold my breath. RPG Stories offers tremendous flexibility. WotC's VTT is using Unreal Engine. RPG Stories uses Unity. If you only want to play 5e D&D with flashy video game combat graphics and you're willing to buy a super-powered gaming computer, WotC's VTT is probably your better choice. But if you want to play a wide variety of games from literally every genre without the need for a super gaming computer, RPG Stories is clearly the better choice. Some feedback has suggested that RPG Stories is really just a very good 3D map maker. And I've seen a lot of comparisons being made with Dungeon Alchemist. Actually, RPG Stories is a really good 3D world builder, but it's so much more. Dungeon Alchemist is good, but RPG Stories takes that to the next level. And they did so for a fraction of what it cost Dungeon Alchemist. For example, my research discovered that Dungeon Alchemist's Kickstarter raised roughly $3.5 million, compared to RPG Stories raising just $65K. And yet, the team at Brave Alice Games has still been able to offer more. Now, I do think it's important to remember, you could choose to use RPG Stories as simply a world builder and export 2D maps to other VTTs. In fact, this software already has so many models and covers more game themes and eras than Dungeon Alchemist. Now, I could keep going through all of the bullet points, But for the length of this YouTube video, I'd rather just refer you to some remarks made by a longtime user of Dungeon Alchemist from the RPG Stories Steam community. From what I could tell, that person is not affiliated with Brave Alice Games, and they offered praise along with some suggestions they'd like to see going forward. Their review is titled, "This is the best VTT designer out there, congratulations." The post then offers an informed list of features that describe the superior power and features of RPG Stories over Dungeon Alchemist. Adding to its credibility, they also list several concerns and constructive criticisms. The team at Brave Alice Games gave a well-thought-out reply showing the highest level of care for their community, something you'll also find throughout their Discord group. That was one of the many facts that helped win me over. I'll provide a link for both the Steam review and their official Discord in this video's description. If you're curious and want to learn more, I do hope you look at both of those resources. Right now, RPG Stories already offers over 6,000 assets, including creatures, terrain, pieces, structures, and more. So much more. You can create 3D maps from any era, from fantasy, sword and sorcery, early 20th century, horror, post-apocalyptic, sci-fi. They also have integration with Hero Forge, allowing you to port over any models that you own on Hero Forge into the program. At present time, however, those Hero Forge models have no animations. Now let's talk about their Kickstarter. RPG Stories currently has a Kickstarter called Wrath of Devs. I cannot explain in simple words how much I dislike that name. It doesn't do the software justice and only serves to remind us that the developers used to produce video games. It's an adversarial sounding name, which is cool for video games. It's just really bad for a VTT that seeks to bring people together. But that may be one of the few faults I could find reviewing RPG Stories. This VTT world builder is still pretty new. Their first Kickstarter was funded in September of 2022, releasing it 1 year later. In fact, they delivered early access on Steam 6 months after the Kickstarter, while backers received it just 3 months after that campaign. These are people who keep their promises. The current Kickstarter ends in about 2 weeks from the time of this upload. Right now, RPG Stories might best be described as an interactive 3D map-making tool with dice. The Game Master can then invite friends to their virtual tabletop. This is already excellent, but it's going to continue to be improved. For example, in addition to their existing assets, with this Kickstarter, they're going to make a number of Kit Bash packages available, including Roman Empire, Water Sea, Cyberpunk, Modern Eras, and Droids, which you might guess looks a lot like something George could have created. I think you know who I mean. Pledging now on Kickstarter not only gives you this software at a greatly reduced price, but you'll have the opportunity to add additional packages if they reach their stretch goals. The 5 I mentioned are already slated to be included with the Kickstarter pledges. Just look at this long list of pledge options that are offered. Additionally, Isometric View will also be part of the current Kickstarter expansion. The unlocked player seats are forever, and there is no limit to the number of players per session. This Kickstarter has rule sets and character sheets to be stretch goals. This is why it's so very important to help them reach those stretch goals. Like it or not, VTTs are the future of gaming. When all of us are living in underground hermetically sealed domes to survive the surface radiation, we're going to need RPG Stories to fend off the boredom. Furthermore, none of us are going to want to leave our subterranean pod houses to avoid being murdered by roving gangs of mutants, making RPG Stories the perfect solution. The keyboard keys for moving around the map are pretty typical for anyone familiar with playing a video game on PC. WASD moves the camera angles and so on. After a few days of playing around with the software, I thought, you know what might be cool? Is if I could create a 3D version of the legendary Village of Omelette. I was very sure, though, that I'd end up with egg in my face if I tried, since I didn't have enough time to learn the software. But I really wanted to see if the software could live up to its claim of being able to import any 2D map and, using only the existing assets, build a 3D version from that imported map. And what better example to show all of you than one of the most well-known classic D&D villages of all time. So I contacted one of their team and mentioned my wish to create this. I was thinking they might offer some suggestions to help me do this on my own, but without even asking, They offered to make this absolutely amazing village of Omelette for me, and the next day it was finished. Mind blown. So we got the village of Omelette up here in the background, and we can take a look at the user interface. You got your common tabs up top here. See that? Over to the left here, you've got show hide properties, toggle selection tool, toggle snapping, brush mode, mass placement presets. You got your journal, your quick notes for GM notes, your ground, your room builder, the floor, the wall, different types of wall you can see here, different materials, fences, you got doors and windows, structures. I mean, every one of these tabs has tons of selections. Objects, characters and monsters, lots and lots of options. Sky and weather, fog of war. VFX, 2D assets, color grading, custom objects, GM tools, Hero Forge integration. Then up here in the upper right-hand side, you got your camera orbit, reset camera, grid toggle, screenshots. You can see the selected grid types there. Screenshots, you got settings, standard. Got your hotkeys. It's that Hero Forge integration. You have a pin point. And you have pen tool. Spell effects. We can click that here and see the different types of spell effects. For example, I'm sure they'll be adding more. It's one collection. A ruler for your distance, and you have all your different types of dice. And I think, as I mentioned elsewhere in the video, they're looking at adding a dice customization option, so you can like create your own dice. I'm going to need like exploding dice, and you're going to want to have dice for like Dagger Heart, different systems. So look at this, how beautiful this is. You can come and visit the village of Omelette. There we have the tower with a castle under construction for the wizard and the warrior. Then back here, we've got the inn of the welcome person. Again, copyright reasons. I think you know who I'm talking about. You have the church on the hill. Looks absolutely beautiful. Now let's address some of the good, bad, and my concerns. As I was researching the software and trying to understand how it worked, I was faced with a common issue I have with technology in general. The learning curve is huge, at least it was for me, because overall, I live like I dress in the 1800s. The software is definitely not made for the faint of heart. It has so many options, you could get lost in it. That strength is also the weakness, because you're going to need to practice self-control. Just because it has all those options doesn't mean you should be trying to use all of them at once. Now, I'm currently using Fantasy Grounds for my own 5e campaign. And I'll tell you, if it wasn't for my own group of amazing players, I never would have learned that. It seems super easy now, though, and I suspect that RPG Stories will be the piece of cake after I get it all down. And then RPG Stories is definitely going to be my go-to for horror, post-apocalyptic, and D6 Star Wars gaming. Now, because I want to play West End Games D6 Star Wars with the exploding dice, I asked if it were possible with RPG Stories. We had a nice discussion on their Discord. They were saying they wanted to create dice for many different games, but I pointed out that's actually too limiting. They need a way for users to create and customize their own dice sets. My suggestions were strongly supported from the community. And now, from what I understand, they're working on creating that option. I'm not saying I got them to do that. What I'm saying is they listen to their community and they interact with popular community requests. You could even make money with RPG stories, since you're able to create maps and then export them into a single .rpg file. You could either give those away or you could sell them to other members of the community. Right now, there are so many fan-made maps, more than I could possibly ever use. But it's great knowing we have so many available resources. The GM can add fog of war and non-walkable areas. Personally, I think the current blockiness of their fog of war looks a bit much for my taste, but I'm not sure what the solution would be. With in-person games, I use miniatures and a dry erase battle map. I only draw what the players can see. VTTs in general have this problem of giving away the fact that there are extra areas at all. And so then players might, look in those areas that they wouldn't even normally know existed. I've been using masking with Fantasy Grounds, and that seems to have solved it, since my players can't tell how big the map really is. One of the biggest problems this software has is also one of its greatest strengths. There's just so much. This means the GM is going to need to practice some restraint. Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should. The more assets you use, the more cluttered everything becomes. This is also true of using miniatures with dungeon walls and other terrain features. They can look cool, but the time it takes to set everything up and navigate around that is not worth the amount of added enjoyment you gain from having gone to such extremes. In fact, I prefer to only use a battle map with basic wall outlines and maybe some sparse terrain features of important items if I have them. Even now, with my current VTT, I only add the most important objects, hoping my descriptions fill in the blank areas. I still prefer a balanced blend of scenery objects with imagination. I think that offers much more to the game than overpopulating the gaming space. The purpose of this video isn't to just parrot a bunch of their sales pitch information. If you want to see that, you can head on over to their YouTube page. They do have some great playlists with tutorials. I'll have a link in this video's description. But for my final thoughts, I want to share something with you that I uncovered. Something that made me pretty upset. Even if you'll never use a VTT, even if you don't care about helping a small indie competitor offering a great alternative to WotC's upcoming VTT, I just want to ask you, have you ever helped someone out in need only end up feeling like they took advantage of your kindness and generosity? That feels pretty gross, doesn't it? I wish I had more details about this, but specific facts are murky. I can only report what has been made publicly available and the information given to Constructo's Kickstarter backers. You see, another VTT Kickstarter named Constructo Dungeon Builder had promised to offer the same features that RPG Stories already offers, and that other company never delivered. Their Kickstarter collected $97,719.21 from 884 backers, leaving them all empty-handed. From what I found in my research on this, backers rightfully want their money back. But as of this recording, I could find no information that was ever going to happen. And Constructo's last update on Kickstarter was from July of 2023, with an attempt to explain themselves. What I did find was this weird post explaining they've allegedly been working on a different project, and they are crossing their fingers that it will generate enough money so they may eventually fulfill their already 1 year overdue promise for Constructo. Let me offer an analogy. In the 90s, I wanted to be a rock star. Despite years of hard work, I'm not a rock star. To quote a Scottish proverb from 1628, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. You know what I mean? Based on public statements, it appears Constructo contacted RPG Stories, asking for help to appease those backers. Receiving no financial returns whatsoever, RPG Stories gave all 884 Constructo backers one free RPG Story Steam key. I was able to find this letter to Constructo backers. Constructo's backers are obviously upset, and Brave Alice Games freely helped them out. And Brave Alice Games lost big because not only do many Constructo backers now believe that Brave Alice Games bought out Constructo, thus now thinking them responsible for those pledges to Constructo, But Brave Alice Games literally just gave away 884 free Steam keys to help others in need, and got nothing in return. Unless you count Constructo's 884 angry pledgers, many of which seem to be holding Brave Alice Games responsible, it doesn't matter that RPG Stories is a superior product. Nobody likes feeling they were lied to and given something different than what they asked for. You know what that saying is, no good deed goes unpunished? So I use Fantasy Grounds for my long-running 5e campaign, but I guarantee I'll be using RPG Stories for my horror, post-apocalyptic, and Star Wars games. The possibilities are absolutely endless. What if they don't reach their goals? This was one of my concerns. They have a great track record for keeping their promises, and I learned that they will continue supporting RPG Stories and continue development. They'll just be forced to scale back though, and future editions will be much slower than their current never sleep, always creating work schedule. Personally, I'd prefer to see them continue to be chained into their seats around the clock, developing new and improved features for their amazing software. I made this video because after my research, I found an amazing company, and I believe it's important to support small indie developers, especially those staffed with such a dedicated team as those found at Brave Alice Games. I'm late getting this video out for their Kickstarter because I did a tremendous amount of research. Now, I didn't feel it was, gonna help you if I just told you like how smooth it runs, or if I go into detail about the huge collection of assets. I don't want to repeat their sales pitch. I'm not going to convince anyone that VTTs are great if you're never going to use one. And I'm not going to convince you that 3D world builders can be an amazing tool in your arsenal of creative tools if you have already decided against them. I can say that videos on their YouTube page are accurate. They're good representations of the software, and that's also why I'm simply reminding everyone how important it is to support good people making fantastic contributions to our hobby. In all of my research, the only 2 faults I could find was the poorly named Kickstarter. And though it's kind of weird to point out, they're offering so much content that it's not likely to appeal to the lowest common denominators. But if you're serious about your gaming, if you want to explore the limitless possibilities of 3D world building, and you desire to back an up-and-coming company that could really make an imprint in our hobby, these are the best people to get behind. Back in my 20s, I would have definitely locked myself in a room for weeks until I figured out every single nuance of this software. I no longer have that sort of time, nor those bad habits, which means it will take me a while to fully learn this. But I will learn it, and I'll make a lot of videos making a lot of you jealous if you miss this opportunity to back their Kickstarter and grab this software at a greatly reduced price. Be sure to check out the video description for a bunch of useful links, including that for their current Kickstarter, Wrath of Devs. So this is my final request to help them out. I'm helping them out with this video because I believe in them, and I believe our gaming community needs more good people. As always, I'm your host, Atten, here at Love TTRPGs. And if you've made it this far, I want to thank you very, very much. I do hope you'll support their Kickstarter in any way you can. Thank you so much for watching.
After 2 years of dedicated development and delivering on our promises, we're thrilled to embark on a new chapter with our first expansion Kickstarter campaign, The Wrath of Devs. But what sets this VTT Kickstarter campaign apart? RPG Stories VTT is already available on Steam, allowing you to start playing immediately. With no waiting period post-campaign, backers will receive keys instantly, and new features will be regularly delivered through monthly updates. We've got you covered across all 3 major tabletop RPG eras: fantasy, modern, and sci-fi. Our platform offers a massive world builder with over 6,000 models, fully operational during online gaming sessions, allowing game masters to unleash their creativity and theatricality whenever inspiration strikes. With RPG Stories VTT, you have the flexibility to swiftly craft your quest or access pre-built quest and environments through our active community's Steam workshop. So, what's new? Wrath of Devs is improving the overall experience of RPG Stories VTT, introducing AI auto-generated scenes for all 3 eras that will highly increase the speed of world building, character sheets and rule sets, Roman Empire, These aren't the droids you are looking for. Underwater and SeaWorld. Dark cyberpunk. Nowadays modern era. Scheduled to launch in April 2024, The Wrath of Devs is not just a Kickstarter campaign. It's our dream to make RPG stories the community's VTT. Get notified today. Link in the description. RPG Stories. It's all about your stories.